Hi, welcome to my Thursday live video, which I sometimes do on a Friday because I forget. Today I'm going to be slightly different. I'm not going to be talking about a teaching subject. I'm actually going to be using you guys as guinea pigs. Because on Saturday I have to give a presentation and I haven't practiced it and it's already Thursday. So you guys are lucky enough to get my presentation. You know, soft practice because it's going to be in person, so this feels a little bit easier. Okay, bear with me because I've never practiced this before out loud and I have to do it on Saturday. This is going to be fun. Okay. Hi, I'm Charlie. I am a doctoral candidate with the University of Greenwich and my area of interest is nano-learning, which I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people don't know what that is, because if you're not interested in it, you probably don't know. So that leads me to the topic of my presentation today. I'm going to be defining nano-learning. So first of all, why are definitions important? It's very important to define nano-learning before we actually study it. We need to be clear, we need an agreed upon definition. Everybody needs to know what they are talking about. We all need to be discussing the same thing. And it's a very new, very emerging topic of research. So obviously there's a lot of debate. Because academics love to debate, that's what we do. And nobody agrees on anything. So that's why we need a definition. So first of all, a little bit of background. I want to talk about why nano-learning is how it came to be before I actually properly get into the definition. So nano-learning grew out of a form of education called micro-learning. And this started to grow in popularity pre-pandemic. And when the pandemic happened, hundreds, thousands of schools, millions of teachers and students were suddenly pushed into remote learning, which really gave a jump to technology-based teaching and learning. And since then, it's really steadily grown in pace. The ideas between nano and micro-learning are very similar. So although nano-learning grew out of micro-learning, it's still a very closely linked topic. Now, although the pandemic brought this type of learning to the attention of educators, there's been steady growth in this in the last decade. So it's not that the pandemic made it, it gave it a boost. So why? Well, there's been a steady decrease in learners' attention spans over the last decade and more. Competition for attention, lack of focus, these are all reported issues by teachers and instructors. It's something that we know. We know that there is a lack of focus and there is a lack of attention, and we need to grab their attention and keep it, which is really hard to do as teachers. So when this is looked at in context with the 80-20 principle, where 80% of your learning is achieved from just 20% of your full-on focused interaction. So there is an opportunity to distill the information down and adjust the resources to achieve the best learning possible overall. Okay, so for a generation that has never known life without a smartphone or apps, traditional learning is becoming increasingly difficult. It's hard to reach them. And children as young as 2 have perfected the swipe. Like, they don't like it, swipe away. They very quickly assess. They see something, they assess, they dismiss the content if it's not good enough or grabbing them enough, and it doesn't instantly appeal to them, it's gone. As young as 2 years old, they can do that. They swipe away. Up and down for TikTok and Reels, and across, and even on YouTube. They're off. They've perfected the swipe. So concepts such as e-learning and micro-learning and nano-learning have expanded considerably, and they've become hot research topics because we need to get in touch with these kids. We need to find a way that we can actually connect with them. But not only that, it's big business. It is big business. It's been predicted that by 2025, so not that long, a few years, the e-learning market will be growing to $325 billion. That's a lot of money. And schools are making these large investments in the technology and training for digital instruction. They need to keep up. Schools need to keep up with societal advances. They need to be on the ball with this sort of thing. So all of this points to a very real need to understand this form of instruction. So if we're doing it, we need to understand it. So all of that said, what does it actually mean? What does nano-learning mean? So the term nano-learning, this is going to sound like a wedding speech. The term nano-learning is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary. Sorry, the term nano is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as anything that is 1/billionth of a unit. It's a very small part of it, a billionth. And nano-learning consists of very, very small capsules of learning and knowledge that are 1/billionth of the resources or hours of reading the books of the full course. So imagine that all the way distilled down into one. Nano-learning is very precise. It's very precise and essential content that's been scaled down to the smallest parts for quick and effective learning. There's very, very tight learning objectives, very, very tight and very focused. This means the primary purpose of the nano-learning is to deliver the content as clearly as possible in a very, very short space of time. And this means taking a single learning objective and reducing it to the smallest aspect of knowledge that it can be delivered in, and it's usually with videos, because they're the quickest way to get this information across. Although nano-learning has also been linked to text messaging, very, very quick, short messages. So these very short lessons are small parts of a very large curriculum. They're not expected to just be used on their own. They're part of a very, very large curriculum. And the learning can be one-off, or it could just be a continuous process and be repeated, particularly in the case of things like language learning. You can have a very quick flash of information, and then you come back to it and see it again. So it's not a one-off thing. So while micro-learning focused on a single objective, nano-learning focuses on a single part of that objective. So if you would like an example of this, if you have a science subject of biology, it's a very big overarching subject, and then you want to look at how the heart pumps blood around the body, the whole lesson may consist of understanding the journey that the blood takes all the way around the body. That's the whole lesson. And micro-learning may look at a learning objective of understanding the heart's role in that journey. So not the whole journey. Micro-learning may focus just on the heart and what the heart does in that journey. So then if we take that even further back and even smaller, nano-learning may have an objective of understanding a valve, one of the valves in the heart, its job. So you can see how this is an even smaller part of the micro-learning. The nano-learning is just the valve. That's just an example. There's lots and lots more like this. So nano-learning reduces the lesson into the smallest objective possible to create understanding on the lowest, not on the lowest level of understanding, but on the lowest part of the learning objective. Okay, so some features of nano-learning. There's a lot of debate about the finer details and stricter characteristics of nano-learning, but there are some generally agreed on features by most academics. It's very short in duration. Nano-learning can be 15 seconds, but usually under 3 minutes, not more than 3 minutes, but the shorter the better. Quick information that gets to the point. It's very highly targeted. This isn't some shoot in the dark, get lots of people. This is a highly targeted piece of information. It's a single purpose. You're not doing more than one thing, and a single learning objective. It's usually viewable on devices. This is not something that you can do by handouts and paper and things. It's goal-orientated learning. You need to know what they're going to come out with. They need a goal. It's immediate benefit, instant benefit to the learner. And flexibility, so it doesn't have to be in a classroom. Our mobile devices allow us to learn anywhere, so these are the features. These characteristics mean that nano-learning can be fast, easier for learners, and more favourable for younger students. And due to the time required to absorb information more easily, the students increase productivity. So this stops overwhelm, it stops boredom, it encourages the students to continue with their studying. What nano-learning is not is self-study. It's not self-study. The learning is highly directed by the instructor or the teacher. It's not down to the individual student. And this is due to the nature of the content, and the time is so tightly defined that it's not something that is available as go off and learn this by yourself. It's also not a group program. The learning is individual for that single learner. Okay, so there you go. That's the definitions between them. But there's also some issues because nano-learning and micro-learning are very similar, which is where there's problems in debate. So to many people, including myself, it appears there's a clear distinction between micro-learning and nano-learning. I feel that they can be defined separately, although they do share similar features. They both give what is called just-in-time learning. They handle content in very similar ways through media. There's a single learning objective. The learner has control. Both encourage spaced recognition, which is what I was talking about earlier, where you come back to it. You learn, you go away, you do other things, and then you come back to it. Sorry, I had to call. And it's purposeful learning. There's a reason that we're doing this. But people rarely agree on anything. Of course, with any academic discussion, definition, there's going to be debate because people disagree. So some always on my live, always. Please don't do this on Saturday, Charlie. Some researchers refuse to acknowledge a distinction between micro and nano learning, while others believe the name is sensational and there's nothing minute or nano about this learning. It's just short space of time. So these views are important. But personally, I can see there is a real distinction between micro and nano learning, and I believe it's an important distinction to make. Another area that is debated relates to the time of nano learning capsules. Depending on the definition used, it can be between 15 seconds and 3 minutes. But others do not agree with the difference between micro and nano learning, so they claim that nano learning could be anything up to 15 minutes. But that depends, of course, if you agree that micro learning is different. Okay, so just to finish off, I would like to talk briefly about why I feel that nano-learning is important and needs to be researched further. While it's recognised that nano-learning does not replace complex programmes of study, it's not a replacement, the benefits of using this instructional method are clear. The benefits of using nano-learning education have been seen already, particularly for lifelong learning. Time is valuable and maximising learning time is a worthy goal. A better understanding of this would be beneficial to educators because we would understand how to do this better, to be more effective. We would need more research, more practice and more guidance for instructors to create the content that's needed. The creation of nano-learning materials requires the teacher to know the student really, really well. Their current level of understanding needs to be understood by the teacher. As nano-learning is so tightly defined, it needs to be highly relevant. This is student-centred teaching. This is focused on what they need right now, the individual. Nano-learning allows students to easily access materials, learn at their own pace and their own time, and there's more focus with no unnecessary information confusion. Personalisation of learning is highly successful, and the teaching of digital skills is a side product of the main learning objective because they're using devices. Not only this, but shorter videos can reduce screen time and avoid screen fatigue. So all of this means that learning can happen in a meaningful way. Nano-learning is the manifestation of less is more. Ta-da! I hope it goes well. That was my first time trying it out loud. Wish me luck.